Hi, whoever might be watching this. My
name is Maddie.
And today I'm going to tell you guys some pretty gross ghost stories that have happened to me. A little disclaimer, these are things that I did personally experience with my friend and also on my own. I do believe in ghosts, however I do also fully believe in science and psychology and how your brain works and all those things. My first conclusion is never, oh, it was a ghost. Just keep that in mind as I tell you these stories. I only come to that realization or conclusion if it's something that I've tried and I cannot explain it. Also, a lot of these stories, all of these stories will be taking place in a certain time frame where I lived with my friend Daisy, and the first couple or one or two were, I wasn't living with her yet, but anything past that, it was when I was living in this apartment with Daisy. And I do think something about Daisy and I together, I don't know if that apartment was like maybe a little haunted or something was going on.
I don't know what it was.
When Daisy and I moved in together and started being friends, there were so many weird, unexplainable, bizarre events that took place together. So, do with that information what you will, but I personally feel like something about Daisy's energy and mine combined was just like some sort of hot spot. I don't know. I don't know how to, explain all that stuff in detail. I don't understand it, but I'm not going to pretend to. Regardless, a lot happened. Anyway, I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, so the first story that I will jump in with is before I moved in with her, and I believe this was in 2015 or 16. It was like the second time I had spent the night at her house, and her mom had been out for the night and her little brother was spending the weekend with them, but he had been asleep. We weren't the only ones in the house, but he was asleep, had been asleep, and stayed asleep. So he was basically not there. Ouch. Holy shit. Daisy and I were in her room, and her room was at the very end of a hallway, so it was like kind of just a little tube almost, if you will. It was like, living area, kitchen, and then there was a hallway, and it went straight back. Her room was at the very, very end, like so. You come this way, here's her door, and then on this wall, it was like, hold on, I bet I can draw this. Okay, here was Daisy's room at the end of this hallway. Then here's the bathroom, and straight across was Daisy's mom's room. That apartment had the kind of carpet that was like shag, sort of longer, so it made more of a sound in a way. Oh, also, another thing to note, her mom's room was weird. That unit that they lived in was technically a 2-bedroom, but had a third that wasn't originally a bedroom. It was like a storage unit within that apartment that got converted into, sorry, there are such loud buses. I live on such a busy road. I hate it. I want to live in the countryside and homesteads so badly.
Oh my god, I fucking hate living in the city.
Anyway, her mom's room was originally a storage unit that got converted into a bedroom, kind of, because it was a really weird room. You went in and there was a bathroom in there, and then another closet, or a walk-in closet, and then there was also a door in her room that led into the gym that was a part of the apartment complex. It was fucking weird. Anyway, one time, no, what? Finish your thought. Okay, because that room was sort of weird and wasn't originally even a bedroom, it didn't have a doorknob. It had a deadbolt. Unless you had it locked, it didn't close on its own. It would just sort of be ajar. The door would just kind of be open a little bit, and it would always kind of open and shut on its own, even though there was no windows in there and not a lot of airflow. It was a little weird that it moved. You had to open it fully with keys. So whenever anyone would leave that room, they would lock it with their keys, and then it would be shut and locked. So moving on, getting into the story. Those are a couple things you need to know in order to understand the story better. Her mom was out, and Daisy and I were just hanging out in her room. It wasn't that late. I mean, her mom basically was, I don't remember if her mom was already gone when I got there, or if she was gone basically immediately when I got there, wasn't there long. Anyway, it was just Daisy and I. Her brother was asleep already, like I mentioned earlier, And so we were just hanging out in her room, just dicking around, doing whatever fucking dummies do in 2015. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention is they had just gotten a kitten. We started hearing sounds pretty early on in the night. Sounds that were, pretty easy to, brush off as like, oh, it's just the cat. Just running up and down the hall, lots of like skittering, just, kind of like just little commotion sounds. Night goes on. And we start hearing more sounds that are starting to get a little harder to explain. If the cat's over here making this sound, then what's over there making that sound? Like, it started getting a little concerning. But we were young and we were alone and we were just two girls, and it's like, we're not gonna, freak ourselves out unnecessarily. We were just like, whatever. It's just the cat. These sounds continue. We start hearing things in her mom's closet, which her closet shared the same wall that Daisy's bed was on. So it was basically right behind our heads. We were kind of like, what the fuck is going on in there? Also, I thought your mom's door was locked. So like, how is the cat even in there? And so if she's not in the closet, if the cat's not in the closet, then what's in the closet? Then, at one point in the night, we hear what sounds like grunting, grumbling, groaning. Also, we were hearing those sounds with the sound of keys. And we also are hearing it in the placement of where Daisy's mom's room is. So we're like, okay, her mom's home. She must not feel good. She's going to bed. They're kind of intense noises. She must really not be feeling good. We didn't hear her come in. She didn't tell her she was coming home. But hey, whatever. But she's home. She, lets herself into her room with her keys. And we don't hear sounds anymore. Except for the cat and the demon that it's playing with. And then we hear the very specific sound of feet shuffling on carpet. That kind of like... We hear it right outside of her door, Daisy's door. It was like as close to the door as you could physically be. And then whatever was standing outside of the door made the most horrendous, god-awful, guttural sound I've ever heard. I can't describe it. I've never been able to describe it. The only sound I can kind of So much just happened. The only sound I can kind of, sort of compare it to, dude, my nose is so itchy. The very first initial sound a person makes when they're like about to cough. Kind of like that, but prolonged and deeper. It was like the weirdest sound I've ever heard, and it was pretty loud, and I could tell the height of whatever was outside the door because that sound was coming from above the door frame. So we're looking at each other now like, okay, I think it's time to be afraid. What was that? What was that sound? Yeah, so then Daisy texts her mom because we were like, is your mom even home? What if that wasn't even your mom? And she says, are you home? And her mom says, no.
Oh my god, bro.
When I tell you we shit, I mean we shit.
We shat.
Yes. So yeah, we thoroughly panicked and freaked out. We're like, oh my god, what is in here? What is in here? Like, is there a person in here? Like, what about her little brother? But then nothing else happened. We didn't hear anything else. We were just kind of like, okay, well, there's not a lot we can do. If we hear other things, and like, we'll call the police, I guess. Time goes by and her mom finally comes home and nothing else happened that night. But that was the first time that shit really was creepy. And I personally think that whatever was outside of that door stuck with us for a long time. This next story is quite a big time jump. This is one that I personally experienced. It's a little bit of a shorter story, but the scariest thing that's probably happened to me in terms of like actually seeing something. I don't have any other experiences where I've seen something and it's burned
vividly
into my memory. Like, I will never forget it. The day I die, it will probably be a quick flash. So I was home alone and I was doing the dishes at our sink in our kitchen. There was like a little sort of half wall that divided the kitchen between the living room. And that was like right beside me to my right. And I was standing there just washing my dishes. No sounds, I wasn't feeling freaked out. This day was a normal day, actually. I'd been alone for a while. I enjoy being alone. Like, I'm not the type of person that gets, like, freaked out, when I'm alone. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see these fingers just kind of wrap around and grip the corner of the little half wall. Like that kind of motion. And these hands were all black, and I don't know if anyone's seen the live action Grinch. I'll probably like insert a picture of what I'm talking about, but they looked just like that, but they were pitch black. Out loud, I literally said no. And then I stopped what I was doing. I went into my room and I shut myself in my room for the rest of the night, and I didn't come out. It's like a short and sweet story, but it is something that I very, 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 very vividly remember. This next story is a little bit more in detail and a little bit longer winded. I think probably the last event that happened between Daisy and I. I woke up one morning to a text from Daisy that said, "Meet me in the living room whenever you are up." I do that. I go out to the living room and I'm like, "Hi, like what's going on?" And a little backstory about Daisy is she has really crazy dreams, like really intense lucid dreams, sleep paralysis, things like that, really, really often. And my hypothesis on whatever was bothering us was able to connect with and kind of communicate with Daisy through her dreams. I feel like she was vulnerable in that way because she was able to have really crazy dreams. At that time in my life, I was also practicing witchcraft, and I think I also just, in my own way, am susceptible to spirits because A, I believe in them, I welcome them for the most part, and I also was a practicing witch at the time, and I just am more in tune with my spiritual side, which Daisy was also similar in that aspect. So I think the two of us together was like a magnet for whatever was happening. And no, we never dabbled in like Ouija boards or any sort of summoning things ever. Daisy asked me to meet her in the living room in the morning because she had what she told me was some of the most horrendous lucid dreams. She had like 2 separate dreams that night. She had one, woke up, fell back asleep, had another. I can't remember all the details. I'm not going to try to recant them in details because I don't want to butcher them. I probably should have just asked her before making this, but maybe I'll do like a follow-up someday. One of them consisted of like she was laying in her bed looking at herself sitting on the floor facing a mirror, and then her own voice in her ear told her, don't look at that. And to me, I registered that as like whatever was bothering us for this long, pretending to be her, like trying to get to her, to possibly like possess her or something. I don't know. And at this point that these dreams happened, it was like this had been going on with us for so long. Like we were so used to it at this point that we ended up, after she finished telling me her dreams, we were having like a pretty serious conversation. Is this something that, could potentially be dangerous? So we had a long conversation about everything that was happening with us, everything that we might need to be doing, everything that we should be, changing, just everything. And we were talking for so long, and this was the first time we had like a genuine, like serious conversation about it that was more than just like recanting things that like individually like we had experienced or like experienced together and just been like, what the fuck was that? We had maybe switched the gears on the conversation to like something just normal for, maybe less than 5 minutes. When all of a sudden we hear this super loud, like clang, crash sound. Excuse me. Daisy's sitting on the couch. I'm sitting in the little like recliner chair that we have. Right behind us is the kitchen. I immediately like shoot straight up because it was like right behind me. We're looking at each other. I'm like frozen. We both are. I turn around and I look into the kitchen, and earlier that morning Daisy had made banana bread, which she did pretty often. She had it sitting on the stove, like in the middle of the stove in the bread pan, and there was like some gap between the actual banana bread and the top of the bread pan, and then the knife was sitting like right in the middle of the banana bread. So I turn around, I look in the kitchen, and the knife from the banana bread was sitting in the middle of the kitchen floor.
Emotional damage.
I've sat and analyzed and thought about this situation so many times. I really, truly have, because it is one of those things that I am just like it's different from even the hand story, because that's something that I've refused to fully think about. And second of all, like, that could have been a trick of the mind, you know, that could have been so many things. This is, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how it could have happened. I don't know, like, the physics of it. There's no way that knife could have landed where it landed, made such a tremendous sound on its own. Because I know what it sounds like when something falls. Yeah, it's loud, but this was so loud. It didn't sound like it fell. It sounded like somebody threw it with force onto the ground. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we had just been experiencing something, had been experiencing something for years, had been finally having a serious conversation about it, had just stopped having a serious conversation about it when that happened. It feels like whatever was bothering us was upset that we stopped giving it the attention it wanted, that we stopped talking about it. To this day, that's one of the things that keeps me up at night. Anyway, that's all the stories I have today. I'll probably spend some time like thinking about other ones. I know I've experienced a couple things with Daisy that I forgot about and one of my other friends. So, you know, I'll probably like chat to them, get the details, and come back with some more stories someday. But those are my major ones that really to this day have stuck with me, have really stuck out in my memory, and have all been things that I just can't fully explain. But yeah, so I hope you guys liked this. Yeah. See ya.